All right. Hello again, friends. Doing a special 2 videos in one day, which I never do. I just want to get done with the array portion of our course that we're working on. We're working on data structures right now. The data structure that we're working on is arrays. In the playlist that we're in, we have talked about Big O. We've coded out arrays from scratch. We've talked about the strengths and weaknesses of using arrays as a data structure. We've done some algorithmic examples with arrays where we were like reversing strings and converting things. So this is going to be the last part about the arrays. So let's just do another algorithm. This one's called merge two sorted arrays. So it's part of, if you do like later on, we're going to do merge sort. This is kind of a part of it. So once you have arrays, you can sort them. But these are just two sorted arrays that we want to merge into one. That's the idea. And we're going to use this example to kind of walk through how you would go about solving this problem. So let's take it like this. Let's say we have a const r1, and that's going to equal 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And then let's go const r2, and that's going to equal 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we have two arrays here. What we want to do basically is have another array. We'll just call it result. And so this will start out as an empty array, right? So what we want to do is compare, is r1 at I less than r2 at some incrementer? Yes, it is. So we want to push into this array the 1. Then we'll increment here. So it'll be 2 versus 3. 2 is smaller, so we move it in here. 4 versus 3, which one's smaller? 3, so we'll move it in here. So you get the idea. We'll run into trouble when we have arrays that aren't the same length, like these, to where we'll start getting undefined returned to us, and our algorithm will try to push the undefined into the results array, but we'll handle that. As it comes up. So let's just start out. We'll go function, and we'll just call it merge, M-E-R-G-E, sorted. And so basically this will take in the two arrays. So we'll go R1 and R2. So we know that we'll have to have a results array. So we'll do that. We'll set that up. We'll need two incrementers for this. So how many times should this increment? And how will we know that it needs to be incrementing? One way to solve this problem, to know, instead of using a couple of for loops or nested for loops or 2 pointers or something like that, we can use a while loop. So what we can say is, while the results array, while the length of that is less than the length of these two arrays added together. So we can make a const length equals r1.length plus r2.length, right? So our while loop can go while the size of the size or the length of the results array is less than the R1 and R2. So we can say while result.length is less than length. So while that's going on, we will need a counter. So let's just do this real quick. So count equals 0. So for now, let's just result.push, and we'll just push in there a test. Or count, we'll just push in count. And then we'll increment count plus plus. We'll increment count by 1. And then we'll return result down here, and we'll just see what we get. So, oops. Let's console.log this merge sorted. And we can just pass in these two arrays in there for right now, but we're not actually going to do anything with them. So we just want to make sure that our count is proper. So we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And here, let's actually start this at 1 so we can see. We'll start that at 1. So we know that we have 9 elements, and we know that this runs 9 times. So that will be the amount that we'll need to run this. So this bit of logic and having it less than the length seems to hold up. So now what we need to do is just get into this. So I'm going to refactor this a couple of times. At first, you'll see that it won't work out properly, but we'll see why. So let's go if. What we want to do is compare R at some incrementer compared to R2 at some incrementer. So instead of having one count, we can just do left, let left equals 0 and let right equals 0, because in my mind, when I'm doing this, I almost have the arrays kind of left and right. So left will represent one array, right will represent another array. As long as you keep them where they need to be, like R1 is going to have to do with left and R2 is going to have to do with right. Should be fine. So we'll go if R1 at left, if that's less than R2 at right, then we want to push R1 at left into result. So result.push R1 at left. So here, put that there. R1 at left, and then we want to increment left by 1. And then right here, we'll just go else. We'll push result.push R2 at right. We'll push that into result. And then we'll also increment right by 1. Now let's see what we get right here when we just run it like that. So if we go, okay, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's doing fine, but then here at the end we get an undefined. Well, why is that? So sometimes when I'm debugging and I run into these edge cases to where like, well, at the end I'm getting undefined, but I conceptually can't really understand why right off the top of my head. So I'll be like, okay, well, let me just start doing some console log. So right here, I'll just console log each time that we go through. I'll console log result, and then I'll console log it here. Okay, so let's take a look, see what we get. So you can see that result, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see. As it goes through, it starts building. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we just get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 undefined. Well, why are we getting undefined right here? Well, if you look at our two arrays, basically when we push this 8 in right here, how is it going to be able to compare to this 9 right here? Because 8 is no longer, we undefined is if we have right here, it would be basically like this. And that's where our pointer is pointing. So it's comparing right there like that. So what we can do instead is let's try and instead of console logging result, just so you can see this a little bit better, we'll console log R at 1, R1 at right, and we'll console log, or actually that needs to go here, R1 at left rather, and we'll console log down here, R2 at right. So this is what we're ending up with each time. So let's go back down here. We'll make this bigger again, and we'll run the code. So you can see we're getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 2 undefineds down here. And then we're going to end up with that undefined here. So basically what's happening is that this array is shorter than this array. So we have to take into account that edge case. So let's get rid of these console logs right here. And because the algorithm is going to keep running until it meets this right here, until that test fails. So what we can do is we can go, okay, so if R1 at right, if that ever equals undefined, then we can do something. We can go, okay, so we can push into result, dot push R2 at left, and then increment left. Conversely, here we can go else if, and we're going to have to switch up those bottom ifs and else's down there. We'll go if R2 at right, this needs to be R1 at left. If R1 at left, then we'll push R2 at right, and then we'll increment right. That's right. Okay, so else if R1 at left, if R2 at right, if that's equal to undefined, meaning that the array has ran out of elements, then we'll push into results, push, we'll push into that R1 at left, and we'll increment left here. And then we need to switch this right here from an if we need to switch it to an else if. So we'll go else if. And then here the else can stay. So let's try this again and see what we get. See if this works. So let's go down here, run it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, cool. So that seems to have fixed the problem. Now, let's do something a little bit different here. Let's make this a lot longer. And then let's make this only one element and see if that still works. So 1, 2, 3. So yeah, it merged the sorted arrays just fine. Now let's make this one have a really big number here, and let's see if it still works. Okay, cool. So it's all still working. So you might ask yourself, like, well, what's the big O of this? Because we're going while we really don't know the big O. So basically, the big O is r.length plus 1, r.length at 1, r.1, r1 length plus r2 length. Because we know that if we have a, let's bring in a count right here for testing purposes. So we'll go count is equal to 0. We'll do let count equal 0. And then here, each time, we'll increment count on no matter what happens, no matter what part of the loop we go through, what condition is met, we'll increase count. If we do it like that, and then down here we just console.log, you can see that our count is 11. So we can also console length right here. We can use some backticks and actually do it like this. And then here we can do backticks and say so the count is the number of operations, and the length is the, why isn't this working? The count is the number of operations, and the length is the number of elements within the array. So you see that they match. So it's really just O of n is what you would call this algorithm. So let's take away these counts right here. We don't really need them anymore for testing purposes. Save it. And there are other ways to do this algorithm. For example, the using two different variables right here, one for left and one for right. The reason that might not be the best choice of action is because you have to make sure that you pick an array and you keep that counter. So you could name them better, like R2 count, R1 count, but you do have to make sure that those maintain a relationship between the array that they're linked to. So that might be something that you can improve upon. There are other things. When you start writing a lot of ifs and else ifs and else ifs and else's, there might be a better way to do it. But this is a workable solution. It is an O of n solution, and it does work. So that's it for arrays for right now. The next thing we're going to do is move on to objects and hashes. So we'll start those videos probably tomorrow. So I hope this helped, and yeah, take it easy.